Hello, this is an overview of the NICE Nexidia IVR Optimization solution. We're going to start today by looking at the executive dashboards, and here I have one example of what an executive dashboard can look like. There's a lot of different opportunities here to really create it, make your own, and have really endless opportunities for different KPIs, metrics, and visualizations that you're looking to have. In this example today, we have our containment rate, about 15.5%. We're looking at our authentication rate, and then average IVR handle time with some different gauges and dashboards here, and then looking at trend analysis over time. So we have the opportunity to set high and low into the thresholds, and then look at how our trend is doing day by day, week by week, month by month, etc. And there's an alerting mechanism within here as well that if we drop below a certain threshold, we can automate some alerts that go out via email, etc. Now, one example of really what you'd be looking for, just as a high-level overview of what's happening within my contact center, how is my IVR performing today? As we look at IVR optimization, not only are we focusing on the one channel of really looking at IVR and what's happening at step by step within that, but we also want to bring in other data. One important data source is attribute data. So we can understand customer segmentations, different ages, different physical locations that they may reside. And we'd be able to filter that data in a number of different ways, one on this dashboard. So imagine where you're looking at containment rate by newer customers within 30, 60, 90 days versus those that have been with us for a year, 2 years, 5 years. Different segmentations of my millennial versus my senior population, how are they looking, etc. We have the opportunity to really slice and dice the data all those different ways. Let's dive into the visualization layer itself and start to look at the activity that's occurring within the IVR. So I'm going to hide my filters pane for a minute here, and we'll come back to that later on. But what we're looking at here as this loads is the visualization of the customer journeys in the IVR. So we're looking at those that start here, this blue box, those that enter the IVR, and then continue their path through the IVR as they go from step 1 to step 2 to step 3, etc. The thickness of each line here represents the percentage of customers going down different paths. So very easily we can see that the majority of customers that start my IVR are going up here to this confirmed number dialed component of the IVR. If I zoom out a bit here, I'm able to see that my IVR is relatively complex. I can see really each column here, if you will, is a step in the process my IVR and my customer is going through. And if I look up and down, scroll here within the width, you can see how far my IVR spreads as we look at the breadth of scope that I might have on my IVR. So just from a visualization perspective, I can really see here what's happening and where my customers are going, and then really start to dive in and do further analysis. Now this is at the aggregate level right now. I can filter this by anything possible that's in the data, and then I'll be able to really look at it all the way down to an individual level as well. Let's take a look at a flow through here, and then we'll start to really focus on one area of the IVR, and today we'll focus on containment or on our authorization and authentication component. So as we look at this, here are those customers that start the IVR. We'll walk through a couple different steps. The majority of customers go up to confirm the number is dialed. And then we scroll up and we see that the majority go to this thank you, just a second message. This is something we play while we're doing a database dip, check in and make sure that we know who they are. And then we have a few offshoots where the majority continue on to the next step, but we have almost 21% here who start our authentication process entering the date of birth. And out of that, we have 21.5% that are getting a capture error. We're not capturing the date of birth correctly. This is an issue. These are really high numbers. I'm surprised to see 21.5% are having a user error after going through here one time. So I want to dive into this a little bit further. Let me first focus this visualization on this component of the IVR. So one thing I can do here is very easily click on any part of the IVR and I can change the visualization around. Now instead of going step 1, 2, 3 through the IVR, I'm now going to focus and make this my focal point where I can now see all the activity that's driving customers to that part of my IVR I want to focus on. So here we see that date of birth capture. Here's all the activity happening before we start the authentication process. And then the different exit parts and exit potential opportunities out of this part of my IVR. So if I zoom back in here, now I'm able to see what's happening when my customers enter their date of birth. Well, the largest amount, really almost 32%, almost a third of my customers are transferring to an agent right away without self-service. This is a huge problem. If I'm going through my authentication process and I'm transferring to an agent right away, we can see that I don't have an opportunity to authenticate. I don't have an opportunity to contain. That's really not a great customer experience, and it's costing me a lot of money. Almost a third of my customers that start authentication are going through that process. So we can take a look at that. We also see 21.5% are getting that user error that we saw earlier. We have more that are hanging up and going different places as well. So let's focus on a very specific part of this IVR. Let's bring up our scenario analyzer. Now this is a really cool part of our solution. It's drag and drop, so it enables me to very easily create a scenario that I want to look at. And let's look at one where they start my IVR. So they go through the welcome main announcement. And then they're going to start the authentication process. And then they're going to have an error, okay? That user error that we saw. And if I calculate that, I'm going to be able to see how many customers are starting my IVR and how many drop off, which really means they did not go through my authentication process, and then how many reach this error. So overall, 21.5% are reaching this attribute of capture error. It's a really big problem, an area I want to focus on within my analytics going forward. A couple different things we can do from here. One area we can dive into is detailed reporting behind the scenes. So we have a full reporting suite and business intelligence component of this solution that enables us to dig into multiple reports and dig deeper into exactly what's happening within the different menus, what's my containment of this component, what are the top journeys in here. These are out of the box, these are configurable, they're designed very easily, and there's really limitless opportunity for you guys to continue to design your own reports. One other area we can look into is the advanced analytics. So I'm going to do that now. What I want to focus on are diving into this specific scenario. Let's let the solution bring things to me and tell me what I should be focusing on, where some problem areas are. So for the rest of this demonstration today, we'll really be focusing on this specific scenario that we just created, the welcome main announcement, to the date of birth capture, to that date of birth capture error. And the first thing we're looking at here are the top journeys. So within this three-step component that I am analyzing, what are the top journeys and the top occurrences? And these blue boxes represent the three blue boxes from my scenario, and those gray boxes are those indirect steps in between. We can see here exactly what my customers are doing and where they might repeat different steps across the different journeys. I can also look at those that might have repeats. So where they went to a component of the IVR, moved on somewhere else, and then repeated it again a little bit later. And then I can also look at those with replays, someone who listened to the same menu multiple times in a row. And here we see that this phone number captured 2000, this WAV file has been played multiple times in a row across different journeys. So why is that happening? Or is it not a clear message? Is there something we need to dig into there to further understand what's driving that sort of behavior? The next really cool part of our solution is menu analysis. So this is a menu complexity score, something we've designed here, and it's an area that we're focusing on and really brings the low-hanging fruit to us. So when we think about what is an area that I need to focus on, what are some menu areas or menu systems that are complex and driving problems within my business, this menu complexity score is a score from 1 to 100. The highest the score, the more complex the menu. And the great part about this is it's configurable for your needs. So in this case today, what we're looking at is it's including these four metrics we see to the right. So we have the number of interactions going through a menu, the repetition rate of that menu system, the average duration in seconds, and the average number of steps to reach that menu. So these are all weighted equally today. You can change the KPIs to something that's more meaningful for your business, and you can weigh them accordingly. And you'll create this menu complexity score where I can take a look at, as an analyst, where do I want to focus my time? Where are the areas where I should really look at first, that low-hanging fruit, if you will. So it's bubbling these areas to the surface for me to focus on and to improve my organization, improve my IVR, and really get that insight and that impact that I'm looking for when I want to streamline and optimize my IVR. So we looked at those top journeys. We looked at the menus specifically that are having some problems. The next area that's really interesting is quick insights. And this is really an area where I can dig into the attributes of the customers that are being driven through this component of the IVR. So are my customers that are getting this menu error, are they using my speech IVR more often, or are they using touch tone? We can see here clearly by this green line that it's much more frequent that customers are using the speech portion of my IVR. So as an analyst, I know very easily, let me focus on the speech component of my IVR through this menu system of authentication? Do I need to look at my utterances, my confidence rates? What's happening there? Am I having mismatching? What exactly is being driven around? We can also bring in age as an example. So we talked earlier about the different attributes we can bring in, the different customer segmentations. Well, if I look here, this 18 to 20 age group has a very small sliver of green, but 65 to 84 has quite a large sliver of green. So my senior population needs a little more attention in how I can improve my speech IVR for my senior population, for my authentication process. Not so much my millennial population, they have it down. So I have these areas I can really focus and fine-tune my IVR by looking at what's happening within here. Nexidia is another area that we can bring into this. So Nexidia Interaction Analytics is another solution. We're able to bring the call categories. When the call gets to an agent and they're speaking to an agent, what are they talking about? Well, here are those call categories that we can bring back through into IVR Optimization. We're able to streamline this together and integrate this so we can see now, let's look at the calls in the IVR that are driving customers to get to general inquiry or driving billing issues at the agent level. What's happening before they get to the agent that we can impact and improve? So we're able to bring the call categorization and call drivers from Nexidia across into the IVR optimization solution. We're also able to take it one step further and bring in the word cloud. So again, from Nexidia Interaction Analytics, what are the customers saying? This green color here. What are the agents saying? What are they both saying? When we get to the agent level, what are they talking about? And how can we move that back into the IVR to either improve existing opportunities within self-service systems, build new self-service systems, whatever that might be. And I don't have that in my demo today, but another great component of this is if I wanted to look at this and see what type of calls are talking about confusing capabilities, I could actually click on this phrase and it would bring me directly into the Nexidia Interaction Analytics solution where I can listen to those calls that were talking about this and directly tie that back to the calls in the IVR and see what's happening all the way through that entire journey, if you will, from the moment they pick up the phone, they go through the IVR, and they speak to an agent. So very, very powerful for us to bring that integration together and see that end-to-end opportunity there. I'll show you two more things today. The next one is really interesting, this menu optimization. So this is utilizing some machine learning to uncover areas that we can improve the menu systems of the IVR. So here we have an example of a menu system with a 1, a 2, a 3, a 9, and a 0 as options that our customers can choose. But what we see here is option 3 has 200,000, which is the highest number of journeys going through it. So maybe that shouldn't be the third option. Maybe that should be the first option. So over here we have the suggested order that the AI is utilizing to understand what's happening here. And it's telling us that we can, if we adjust this order in this way, we'll save 2.39 seconds per event and just over 10 days of potential time saving within this time frame of the month that we're looking at. So this translates into real dollars and real cents here that we can make an improvement. I'm able to lock different ones. Let's say I wanted to unlock that and lock number 2 and recalculate. I have the ability to calculate what that looks like and change what my potential time saving would be based on the order I want to preserve and the order that I'm willing to change to make that improvement and make that time saving. So a very, very powerful component within the solution. The last thing I want to touch on today, I'm going to move back to that visualization one more time where we came from as we started looking at the scenario. And I want to mention the filters because really, really powerful and something we haven't talked about yet is the ability to filter and slice and dice the data in any way that we want. So we saw that there was that speech versus touch tone. We saw that the age of the millennial versus the senior. We saw the Nexidia call drivers, right? These are all attributes that we have available that we can slice and dice and filter and see what our journeys look like for different populations. So these attributes are not based on a certain pick list. They're all derived from the data we receive from the IVR. And for example, here's this age range. I can say, let's take a look at those customers that are between 65 and 84 that call me. And if I apply that, this quickly I'm able to look at all my customer journeys through the IVR, visualize that as well as my specific scenario here, and run further analysis on exactly what's happening for this population. I can add numerous other inputs as well, such as input mode here of speech. If I want to look at my speech IVR, We have those Nexidia call drivers that we were talking about earlier. The billing inquiry was an issue that we were able to take a look at. I can set those filters and I can apply that, and that quickly I'll be able to look at and further analyze and run deeper analysis and reports off of exactly what's happening within those certain segmentations and certain values. So very, very flexible, very powerful solution. Again, this is the NICE Nexidia IVR Optimization solution, and I hope you've enjoyed the demo today. Thank you very much.